My guest this morning is Luis Hernandez. Luis Hernandez was born in the Dominican Republic and moved to the United States as a child. He grew up in New York City and New Jersey, where he resides. Growing up in a culturally and economically diverse environment allowed him to see the experiences we have motivate and propel us to different heights. Seeing the needs of this generation inspired him to become a social worker and educator who has worked in the educational and nonprofit sector for more than 30 years. He is an entrepreneur who has dedicated his life to educating children and counseling families. He seeks transformational and spiritual experiences that propel him to live life to its fullest potential by developing the mind, body, and spirit. His attitude is, quote, using no limitation as the only limitation, unquote. He is a Christian, a runner, and a mountain enthusiast who has walked up many mountains in many countries. This has been the inspiration to write this book, and I hope it inspires others to follow their dreams and reach their mountain peak. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Reading Circle microphones, Luis Hernandez. Luis, good morning.
Good morning, Mark. Great to see you. Thank you very much for having me. It's an honor to be here.
Man, I tell you what, it's, nothing, I think the older I get, the less I believe in consequences in terms of, not consequences, I'm sorry, coincidences. Consequences, yeah, those I believe in. As an educator, believe me. However, in terms of coincidences, nothing, I don't think, happens by just chance. I think there's divine design behind everything. And this is one of those occasions, the reason I'm saying that, because my good friend, Kemper McDowell, I don't know if Kemper is listening or not, because I just texted him and said, you better be up. But in any event, Kemper had been telling Luis about me, and he a couple of times told me about Luis, and he just kept on saying, I got to get you to the meet. I got to get you to the meet. Luis wrote a book. Okay, all right, okay. Kemper, of course, never went through with the meeting. It just happened so. I was at central office one day, and I was talking to Kemper, and lo and behold, who walks out of the elevator but Luis? So at that point, Kemper's like, oh, my God, both of you are here at the same time. So we meet. He says, Luis, meet Mark. Mark, meet Luis. And Luis had copies of his book with him.
Not coincidence, right?
Not coincidence, not at all. It's not coincidence, not at all. Luis had his books with him, and we had met, and we set today's date. He gave me a copy of the book. It's a children's book, correct?
It's a children's book.
But it has adult message, all right? So adults can read it as well and also get a message. So we're going to chat with Luis this morning about his book, The Great Treasure of Pico Duarte. And who is Daisy your... What is Daisy to you?
Daisy is a former student of mine from the Patterson Board of Education. She went to one of our high schools, one of the academies, Rosa Parks High School.
So it just happened to be the same last name?
It just happens to be the same last name.
Okay.
And her uncle's name is Luis Hernandez.
No coincidence.
No coincidence.
No, not at all.
You cannot make that up, Mark. It's impossible.
But in any event, Daisy Hernandez was the illustrator. And that was, like he just said, a youngster in the Patterson public school system as well, who illustrated the book. So we're going to chat about that. But first, as you all know, matter of fact, Dominican Republic, I tell you, there's a reason I never went there. Because I said I'd never come back. And then what you go? I've had friends like, no, I'm not going because I know I will not come back. So, but in any event, my food services people, my ladies from food services, they're from Dominican Republic. And they have been, for the last few days, they've been giving me Dominican breakfasts. Mofongo. Yes, I've had mofongo. Yesterday I'm trying to think what I had yesterday. But they've been presenting and bringing me Dominican breakfasts. So that's what I've had over like the last couple of weeks. I've been having Dominican breakfasts.
You get like salchichon, which is the sausage, right? Sliced up like salami.
That sounds like yesterday.
Fried salami, right?
I think that's what I had yesterday. I'll have to show you a picture of it. Yeah. Yes, that's it. Yes,
that is the traditional breakfast in DR.
Okay,
everybody, you have that, you're good for the day.
I find that to be true because I was not hungry yesterday. I'll have to show you a picture because I took a picture of it. I'm going to show you the picture and you can tell me what it was. But I remember the mofongo.
Yes.
That I remember because they called me down and I was like, they told me, mofongo. Oh, okay, great. And it was that one you just described. I think that's what I had yesterday. I'm not sure.
That's a traditional Dominican breakfast. You get the mofongo, which is actually plantains. You boil them and then you mash them up like mashed potatoes, but it happens to be plantains. And then you can combine that. You can add like chicken or pork or whatever it is, and then and then you add the eggs and the salami. That is a traditional Dominican breakfast.
Well, that's what I've had for the last couple of weeks. Not every day, but every day they call me down because like they're down there whenever we're serving the kids breakfast. So they'll call me to the side and said, "We made you." We're like, "Oh, right, yes, thank you."
You're being indoctrinated to the Dominican way of life.
Well, because one of the young ladies, she's like, "Oh, you have to go. You have to go." I said, "No, because if I go, I won't come back." So,
and you're right. You're right. You're gonna stay. You're gonna stay. The place is amazing.
So, all right. Did you grow up there or did you grow up here?
That's a great question. I came here at the age of 7.
Okay.
Yeah. So we lived in DR. By the way, I'm the youngest of 11 children.
Oh, okay.
So same parents, same family. We cannot be any more different. And so when we got here, I was 7 years old. We came into the Lower East Side, and I was there for 7 years. And then when I was 8th grade, we moved to New Jersey, to northern New Jersey, to North Bergen, in Hudson County. So I went to grammar school there in McKinley Grammar School. Then I went to North Bergen High School, and then from there I went on to St. Peter's University.
Now, you said you were 7.
I was 7.
I'm always fascinated by people who leave a country and come to another country. And I know you were 7, but what was that experience like for you?
Let me tell you, I distinctly remember, we came from a very small town in DR that's called Jarabacoa. It's a fairly today it's known because a lot of folks go to this part we're from the central part of DR, and which is where the base of El Pico Duarte, the highest mountain peak in DR, is in this environment. 45 minutes away, you go to the base of this mountain, which is now a national park. And so when I came from there, I was born almost like an exodus, because my parents were living in the outskirts of the city of Jarabacoa. When I was born, we were literally moving into Jarabacoa from a town called Manabao, which is the outskirts. And it happened that as we were transitioning from the outside into the city, the hospital was close by. That's how I was born in a hospital, because everybody was born at home.
Oh, okay.
With a midwife, right?
Okay.
And so that's actually, I saw that as, biblically speaking, I was born in the Exodus. That's how I saw it, right?
Right. That's right.
So, over years, I realized, that was the Exodus. That was my Exodus.
Right.
So then, coming here, the first thing I remember is just getting on a plane and then coming into JFK. Imagine, I had never been on a plane. And I got out there and I said, this is going to be amazing. I thought it was like amazing. Everything was fast. Technology I had never even dreamed of. But the one thing that impressed me as a 7-year-old is that when I went to the local store in the Lower East Side, they had so many varieties of candy and potato chips that to me, that was like, oh my God, where was this place? And I've been in love with the city ever since.
Wow, because it's like, and I've traveled all over the world, and my former wife was Jamaican. She was from Jamaica. So, and I would always ask her the same thing, like, what was it like for you to pick up and go from one country and now come in? I don't like moving across the block, so let alone moving from one country to the other. But at the same time, it's got to be one heck of an experience.
Over time, you get to appreciate how amazing that journey was. And I try to reflect a lot on what was it like for my parents, right? My father was basically 50 years old, came here, nothing, $100 in his pocket maybe. And for him to transition into a country where he doesn't speak the language, doesn't have the career capacity to transition, he came in and he realized I have to get our kids out of this community because we can't survive.
Right.
So those decisions that he made at that time, which seem so logical now, everybody thought he was crazy. To move from the outskirts to come to the city, you're going to lose your family, your girls are going to be... And mind you, they had 5 girls and 6 boys in that order.
Wow.
So that's 1 in a million chance. But he was so dedicated to our family. To me, he's a hero.
Right.
I honor this man to this day. A day doesn't pass that I don't think of him. And I honor him every single day, thinking, how did he do all that he did with so little? And the answer is faith. This man just believed that things were just going to turn out better.
That's right.
And he had the courage to go and apply what he believed God would just take care of it.
Right.
And he went and he transitioned from outskirts to city. Within 3 years of us being in Jarabacoa, he was in the Lower East Side of Manhattan. It just happened, just a serendipity process that it's a fairy tale.
Right.
My older sister happened to be, she was 19 at that time. There was a man who came originally from the DR, was in the U.S., came to Jarabacoa looking for a wife to marry, a good woman. There was one photographer in this little town. He goes, oh, let me bring you to the Hernandez family. They have 4 daughters. Maybe you'll like one of them. And my older sister kind of like connected. Within a year, they got married. And by the following year, my father was in the Lower East Side of New York.
Wow.
And it was just incredible. That is the journey that we have had. And so now, to me, I appreciate every single day. I look at life with such wonder because it is a miracle. Mark, to be alive is a miracle.
I could not agree with you more.
It's a gift of
life.
It
is.
It's a gift.
I could not agree with you more. And I preach that constantly, whether I'm here on the radio or whether I'm on Facebook or whether I'm at my school or whatever, because it is. I believe the same thing. Because we don't have to be here. No. I mean, I was just talking earlier before you came on about my mother's goddaughter. She's only like 16, 17 years. Her mother passed away. My mother passed away last year. And she, for the most part, helped raise this particular child with her mother. So this child's mother lasted a year after my mom. She was very young. She was not older than like 40s. Maybe 40s or so. So we just never know when. The young lady texted me on Wednesday saying, I just wanted to let you know my mom passed. And I was like, we don't know when. So you're right. Every day, every moment is precious to us because we don't know when it's going to be the last.
It is precious.
As a part of the Christian faith, we believe in heaven and so forth and so on. So there's no question that we want to get to heaven. However, eternity is eternity. We're going to be in heaven a long, way much longer than here on earth.
But if you think about it, Mark, from a Christian's perspective, this is heaven on earth.
Correct.
And that's the beauty of it, to understand. This is Stephen Covey says, always think with a win-win approach.
Yes.
This is not a win-lose. Right. It's a win-win. We did not choose to be born.
Correct.
Right? We were granted life by the foundation of love.
Correct.
And that's the essence of life. That's the spirit that gives our humanity purpose and value. This is why we struggle. This is why we work. This is why we sacrifice, is for the people that we love.
Correct.
And the people that have loved us, we honor them and say, no, this is not in vain. We are going to do this because this is exactly what they sacrificed their lives. Many times physically, their lives and their suffering was to give us an opportunity that they never had a chance to explore. And that, to me, you maximize that. You honor that, and you're humbled by it because you have been chosen to be able to lead a life that allows you to truly, truly live the dreams that our parents had.
Correct.
That is incredible.
It is. I could not agree with you more. I mean, we're on the same link. We're on the same wavelength here for sure, because that's exactly what, like, this whole notion of gratitude is real. This whole notion of the attitude of gratitude and being thankful, because this is what usually happens. Generally, for those of us who are grateful and thankful and show gratitude, we actually wind up getting more than someone who is always complaining, always whining, always grumpy, always nothing in their world goes right. And of course, if they have that mindset, that continues that pattern of nothing going right. Compared with those of us who kind of like, that's not to say that me and Lewis don't have issues. That's not to say that, we're exempt from trouble, because we're not. No. We're like anybody else. We have issues and concerns and troubles and challenges like anybody else. But it's the attitude and how you look at it. It's the attitude of, and it happens so, both of us are educators, because I'm going to work our way to that, and we're going to work our way to his book. But you hear, we're having this conversation to give you a feel for, who we are, our thought patterns, how we believe, and even how we came into what we do. Mm-hmm. Right? Because I read in your bio here, I see here, you also had experience in the nonprofit sector. Did that come before you getting into education, or is it simultaneous?
No, absolutely. It came before. I was always interested in psychology. The study of the mind, to me, was fascinating. I love reading. I'm an avid reader, and I've always read. And being in grammar school, I remember one day I was actually walking to the bathroom with a book in my hand, and the teacher sees me. She's like, "Where are you going?" I'm like, "I'm going to the bathroom." She's like, "With a book in your hand?" I'm like, Yeah, you can read along the way in the hallway.
That's right. It's like, see?
So I've always been called to words and to reading. So in reality, when I graduated from St. Peter's, I studied psychology, got a degree in social work, and went into New York for a year, worked in Grand Wyndham Foster Care Agency. And then I came to work in Jersey to the Urban League of Hudson County. The Urban League, unbeknownst to me, is a national organization. I didn't know that. I was just looking for work. And I wound up going to the town of North Bergen, where I was actually in charge of the satellite office, working with the same students and kids where I grew up going to high school. So now I came back to that community, and for 12 years, I was the vice president of the Urban League. So I actually worked with, at that time it was called DIFUS, now it's DCPMP.
Right.
So those kids were sent to my office so we can give them counseling and guidance with parents that were having difficulty in managing their lives, and their children sometimes were removed, so we were trying to reintegrate the families. So those families would come to my office, and we would give them therapeutic intervention and counseling, and to allow them to reunify with their kids. So I did that for 12 years. It was amazing work. I learned they were teaching me. I thought I was the master. No. The parents and those students and those children, they were teaching me this is what it is to be human and to suffer,
Right.
and to have things in place. I saw some folks that I went to high school with that became parents, and because of the choices they made in their life, they wound up being in a situation where DIFUS had to go in and intervene in their lives. And they were coming to my office, and I'm thinking to myself, how did this happen? That this is someone that I knew in high school, and now, because of choices they made, they got lost along the way. So now that we're trying to come back into the right path, and God placed me there to give a word. And they were like, oh, wow, I remember you. And I'm like, I remember you also. So it's the serendipity of the process. Nothing is by coincidence. But that actually I began to understand that this is my calling, to be in a field where you are of service to others. It's the highest vocation.
Absolutely.
It is amazing. The more you give, the more you receive.
Correct.
And that is exactly why we don't burn out. Because I love to be able to be of service to someone, which allows me to receive that wisdom, and then it's a reciprocal process.
It absolutely is. Now, this is radio and not TV, so you cannot see me, but everything Lewis is saying, my head is bobbing up and down. Like, I'm right with him. I'm in total agreement. My head is going up and down, up and down, up and down. Up. Yes, I'm in total agreement because as you all know, prior to me going into education, I did 15 years in corporate America. Lewis, when I tell you perks, I had every perk going. Travel, meeting famous people, the promotions that I worked with, but it wasn't doing anything for me on the inside.
That's
external, it was fabulous. Internal, it wasn't doing anything for me. And my first love and first passion was always teaching to begin with. And finally, after 15 years, I said, I can't do this anymore. And I left corporate and went into education. That was in 2000.
Wow. And we both started that same year.
You're right. That's right. So it's like I've been in education. Actually, I've been in education prior to that and in other venues and platforms. But formally in education started in 2000.
Yeah.
Working with, like you said. Because see, this is the thing, folks, we're going to interview Lewis about his book, but we're having some life chat here right now. In terms of, we really are put here to make life better for others. We're not here just for us. Mm-hmm. We're not here just for us alone. We are here. We are blessed to be here to be a blessing to somebody else. Now, that is the way it ought to work. Because think about that. If everybody was being a blessing to somebody else, everybody would be blessed.
Yes. What a beautiful world it would be.
Yes, that's exactly right. So he's right when you're talking about a calling in terms of working with people and trying to, especially when we're working with kids, because we have the opportunity. You talk about shaping and molding the future, we get to do it.
Yes, every day.
Because like for me, I work with 3rd grade through 8th graders. Lewis gets the chance to work. What grade levels are you working with?
Right now, it's kindergarten through 5th.
Okay, there we go. We're in the formative years.
And I'm working, which is an amazing calling. It's these are children that are seriously struggling with serious behavior issues, so they bring them to School 20, which is where I'm at, and with Mr. Hill.
Yeah, you're over there with White. Yeah,
great guy.
Yeah.
And it's amazing because these children that on the external, they look like unmanageable. We're never going to reach these kids, and I see something very different. I see this light this innocence that is this calling for someone to see me, look at who I really am. Children that have never really been heard, have not been acknowledged. It's like, hey, what happened to you yesterday that you came in so upset at 8 in the morning?
Right.
What's going on? And then when they tell you their story, that's when you really see some amazing, amazing things happen.
Good morning. Your caller, you're on the air. Would you have a question for my guest this morning? Hello? Okay. Thought we had a caller there, but let's see. Nope. Oh, I'll tell you what. There we go. Good. I might have lost them because I didn't realize I didn't have the phone button on. Okay. That's what happens. I didn't realize I didn't have the phone button. Okay. Caller, call back again if you were calling to ask a question. Matter of fact, that's a very good reminder. My guest is in the studio today, so if you'd like to call in and you have a question for him, it's 973-720-2738. I just have to make sure everything is set to receive your call. So again, the caller that just called, if you couldn't hear me, call again, and you'll be able to hear me. It's 973-720-2738. And we're talking about a plethora of things. We're talking about how we got to the point where Lewis wrote The Great Treasure of Pico Duarte. We're talking about us working with children and so forth and so on. So caller, again, call back. I apologize. I didn't have it set. And so now it is set. Give me a call back. As we were saying, you were saying like the child, like we deal with children who feel unheard, so forth and so on.
And this is one of the things that I think is critical. When we look at the spirit of the child and we actually take the time to listen to what is happening, we really hear the suffering that they're going through, the traumas that they're experiencing. And within that, there's also a desire for hope. They're looking for someone to see, who can help me. And I've encountered so many children and adults who have unresolved traumatic trauma. I mean, it's just issues that you cannot. And so as children, once we begin to see how these children are actually what they're hoping for, they want someone to help them in some way. So they're screaming for someone to help them. Part of our job is to embrace them, not to reject them based on their behaviors. It's a completely different approach. And I love what you were reading earlier today. It's about compassion. This is the story that I tell the staff over and over again. It's the Good Samaritan story. And if I may, the Good Samaritan story is, to me, the heart of our humanity. Jesus Christ, they ask him, who's our neighbor? And he's like, I'm going to give you a story because I love the way, Jesus Christ teaches in parables because it's the best way to teach because it allows the person to actually be able to, within themselves, reflect and meditate and go, what does that mean for me? And that's what he wants us to reflect upon. I'm going to give you something, but what does it mean for you? And that story to me is at the heart of our humanity. There's a man on the street who along the road who was beat up. They robbed him, and rabbi comes by, sees him, very, very well prepared to address the needs of that man.
Good morning. Good morning, caller.
Good morning, Mark. This is Wardell. You doing okay this morning?
All is well, man. All is well.
I'm sitting here listening to Lewis, and I'm shaking my head with you. I'm just bobbing back and forth. You guys got some great chemistry going on this morning. I recently left the DR about in April, and again, beautiful place. It's simply beautiful. The people are super friendly. Again, like I said, I'm looking forward to the time that I can go back. But like I said, just listening to you guys again, and the fact that you guys are educators and you're doing such a wonderful job. I'm also in education, early childhood and Head Start. Like I said, just connecting with the little people and their parents. Like I said, again, it's a pleasure and a blessing.
Yeah, you know what it is? Because like I said, we get a chance to shape lives. In that song that I opened the show up with, when Brian Courtney Wilson says, our mothers' mothers and our fathers' fathers planted seeds when we were but a faint notion in their mind. That's exactly what happened. And Lewis was talking about it. Like, we are the product of our ancestors. Like, we are way beyond what our ancestors could have imagined for. And it is our responsibility and up to us to keep it going. And whenever we're working with these kids, especially in the formative years, in the formative years, we are shaping what that child, and for some, for those of us in education, for some of those kids, that's the only shaping they're getting. And no shade on the parents, no judgment, just an observation. Yes. But for many of the children, the shaping is done with us as educators in the schools.
And that's so true. When I heard Lewis speaking about his dad and his large family, just the type of mentality and the mindset that he had to do better for his children, to take them out of the DR and to bring them here. Like I said again, and that took a lot of courage, and that blessings transcend to the children. You pass it down. Mark and I, our mothers passed last year, not too months apart. And that again, I still believe we're reaping the benefits of their prayers and their
absolutely.
Yes. We're still standing on their shoulders. So again, like I said, I'm going to continue to listen to this interview. So I'm not going to take up any more time. But Lewis, again, welcome to the circle. I can't wait to hear more about the book and some more of your experiences. But you guys have a blessed and wonderful day.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
Same here, man. We'll talk. I thank you so much for the call.
Be well.
You do the same.
Be well.
All right, callers again. You had the opportunity. You heard it because, like I said, when I have my guest here in the studio, my guest this morning is Luis Hernandez. He's an educator as well as he's now become an author, and we're going to be talking about that. But we're working our way up to that because we're using, the education to help understand kind of like who we are and our thought process and how we, approach kids and people and so forth and so on. So if you'd like to talk to Luis or if you have comment or question, the number is 973-720-2738. And for those of us who are working with children, we really do have the opportunity. And I just said this yesterday, because this whole school thing with teachers and administrators and kids and all, it's a dance. It's a game. Right?
Yes.
The kids try to pretend like they're not listening to us, but they are. They try to pretend like, they don't like the chastisement. They don't like the, the structure. They don't, but they do. And we have to do what we do. We have to fuss. We have to constantly coddle. We do what we do, but it's a game. And I'll tell you why I know it's a game. Because at the end of the school year, particularly for those who are graduating, that's when it comes out.
Wow.
That's whenever, the tears, I'm going to miss you. What do you mean you're going to miss me? You hated me. And the teachers they hated the most is the one they acknowledge the most whenever they graduate. Because it was like, because usually in my school, because it's so small, I give students an opportunity to, reflect and say whatever they want to say. And the teacher that they gave the most challenges to, and the one they claim they hated the most at graduation time is the one they love the most. Thank you for Mr. Such and Such. Thank you for Miss. What do you mean thank you? You said you hated them. But the game becomes an end, and people, they get like really like, oh my God, we're not going to be together anymore. Yeah. And so it's, the whole school game is a dance. And I've had students come back to me that I taught back in 2000. Wow. Because they're grown now.
That's amazing.
They're grown and they see me in the street and holler my name and, oh my God, oh, you're still, I'm still doing this, so forth and so on. Oh, I remember when you, yes, that's right. Haven't changed a bit, still saying the same thing, different set of students. That's right. But I'm still saying the message is still the same. But it is a wonderful field to be in, even though we have less and less people coming into it because of the various challenges or what have you. But it is a wonderful way to leave a legacy. Yes. See, Lewis and I and Wardell and those in education, we have a wonderful opportunity to leave a legacy because we're touching the lives of kids. Yes. I actually had this student, I taught him when he was in 8th grade. I wound up with his son now in my school.
The next generation.
Right. And so that kid graduated last year, but the father came to me and told me, he said, you know what? I used to hate to come down to your office and read and write. I hated coming down there. I really did. He said, but I thank you because if it had not been for that, I wouldn't have the job I have today.
There you go.
I looked at him. I said, he says, yes. He says, I would not have had the job I had today if what you did by forcing me to come to your office and read and write. That's why I wound up getting my job to this day. I said, because his son graduated last year. So will you say that at graduation? He says, yes. So I stood him up at the graduation. I said, this is a parent.
You got a witness.
That's right.
I love
That's
it.
exactly right. But you're working from a social work perspective. I mean, you're right. So when you was describing the kid that needs to be heard, and immediately a student came in my mind. This particular kid's face came into mind, and he may wind up being with you next year. No, he won't be. I think he's going to another school. But he's one that's just been a challenge. I do mean a challenge. I have a couple of them. Mm-hmm. And it's like, I had one child, the staff was just like, Mr. Medley, you got to do something. Like, yeah, he's staying. You got to do something. No, he's staying. Mr. Medley, he's staying.
Words they did not want to hear.
But anyway, you do. I mean, it's like, all right, listen, something. We never know, because I am determined, as well as I know for a fact that's one of the children I'm talking about. He's going to be like another Steve Jobs. He's going to be one of these, because he's a different thinker.
Yeah.
And I always tell the teachers, I'm telling y'all right now, when that does happen for this kid, don't you come running to me talking about, we always knew he was going to be something. I'm saying, no, you didn't. We always.
You had no faith in that child.
That's right. Like, we always knew he was going to. No, that's not what you were saying. And what you call it. But in any event, it is a call. And I heard you say something earlier about you were an avid reader. Now, I heard Lewis say he walked now. At that age, I wasn't there, but I am now. But at that age, I wasn't carrying a book to the bathroom. So I applaud you for that, because I do that now with my iPad. I go, because I have like 2,000 books on my iPad. I go nowhere without my iPad. Right here.
That's awesome.
There's never a down minute, because there's always a chance to read.
Of course.
Most of my guests, they're writers, they're authors now. They were avid readers as kids. Every now and again, I'll get one, they'll say, no, I didn't read much as a kid and changed over somewhere. But I heard you say you love reading from a child.
Yeah, I've always loved reading. I think that was, I think, it just gave me, it was a way to listen to people, to read. I started reading because I played a lot of sports. I was playing baseball, basketball, playing football. I'm a very athletic person, and that was my energy. I mean, if I would have been diagnosed ADHD today with the situation, where at that point, it was something that really allowed me. So I loved reading about the lives of these athletes that became professionals. One of the ones that truly inspired me was Roberto Clemente.
Oh, okay, all right, yes.
I read his story and his beginnings in Puerto Rico, and his father, who was worked in the farms, cutting down sugar cane, and that inspired me so much to hear. Like, Roberto Clemente was such an amazing athlete, but he was an amazing humanitarian.
Yes.
And I just loved the way that this man lived. He lived, and he was always looking for, how do you help someone
Correct.
Who is in a situation that they need someone to help them.
That's right.
Monetarily, just to go out. And he had this sense of, he was human.
Yes.
He was an amazing baseball player.
Yes.
But humble. He never forgot his humble beginnings. That is the foundation of greatness.
That's right. I agree, because to Lewis's point, Roberto Clemente lost his life trying to go help somebody else.
Yes.
That's how he got in that plane crash. He was going to help somebody else.
Yes.
So you're right. Wonderful humanitarian and athlete. I pulled up, this was my breakfast yesterday. I don't know which one that is. Is that I pulled up the picture from Lewis.
Mark is still completely inspired by the Dominican breakfast he had yesterday. So you do have to go to DR, because you can have this every morning.
See, so I don't know which one that is you described, but that was my breakfast yesterday morning.
Wow!
But
this was made with a lot of love.
Oh yeah, those two ladies can cook. I'm gonna shout them out. Those two ladies can cook. They can cook. They cook the school food for the boys, and like I said, they be cooking that down, and they invite me down. So
there you go. So here you have the salami. You have, obviously, you gotta have onions. You gotta have garlics and tomatoes. And, the plátano, which is the mangú. So that combination, you cannot the chemistry in your brain, when you eat that, the palate goes insane, because it's like, what is this? It's a foreign, the brain doesn't know what to do with all those flavors, which is awesome.
I tell you what, so yeah, as Sophia can say on Golden Girls, we digress. But in any event, I pulled up the picture for him, so I wanted him to see what it was. Like, this is what I had yesterday. But going back to what we were saying about being humanitarian and life calling and working with children and making life better for others, this was something I saw on social media, and I posted it the other day. If money and material things make you believe that you are better than others, you are the poorest person on earth.
Nice.
I'll say that again. If money and material things make you believe that you are better than others, you are the poorest person on earth. All right, let that sink for a little bit. You all think about that. My guest this morning is Luis Hernandez. He is the author of the book, The Great Treasure of Pico Duarte, and we're working our way up to how this book came into being, because my usual question is kind of like, well, now you've already said you were an avid reader. in your mind as a child, did you say, I'm going to be an author one day? Or how did this?
Never. I never, ever thought about like writing something myself. Over time, I think that like good poets, they become good poets by rewriting other good poets. And that's how you become a poet. The more I understood that, the more I read, the more the ideas, you see the interconnection of ideas and the formation of how your mind starts to see the world from a larger perspective. That's the beauty of reading. It transposes you to another time-space continuum. Yep. There is no level, there's no time restraint. So you could read something that was written 2,000 years ago. The greatest book ever written, obviously, is the Bible. The Bible, right?
Yes.
You're looking at thousands of years of God-inspired action in our humanity, like the story of our salvation. Okay, as a man of faith, to me, this is the greatest book that's ever been written because there are 66 books in the Bible. So to read that story, and when you go to, most of us focus on the New Testament, but reality, the foundation is in the Old Testament, where that relationship. So the Bible has been in our family forever. Why? Because our parents lived in faith. And so doing the rosary every day was part of our life. Talking about Christ was everywhere. Right. You have Christ pictures and Michelangelo's, the Last Supper. Right. So all those things that impacted us, you start to read. That's the beginning of your mind looking at something that, like, who was this person? What was this about? When was that? Where were they? All of a sudden, that book becomes the foundation to everything you read. Because the more I read, I love books about self-actualization. Books like on Gandhi, people that Martin Luther King that were inspired by Christ. And when you look at that over time, you realize everything of wisdom comes from this source. It's like the well of spiritual life.
Correct.
And the more I read, everything seemed, I've read Krishnamurti, from wherever you are in the universe of this planet Earth, somehow there's a spiritual breath. That to me was such an aha moment in my life. So the more I kept reading, seeking, because that happened by my seeking, I want to know, what is the meaning of life? What is, you start to ask existential questions.
Correct.
What's my purpose? What am I doing here? Do I live just for me?
Correct.
And is it just to satisfy my own ego, selfishness and narcissism? Or am I connected to a community, to a family? And our family is our first community.
Correct.
So this is what happens. Now, when we're always in community, which means you're always in commune with others.
Correct.
That, to me, like this moment, is not by chance. This is a moment that needed to happen, and that's why it's happening now. So understanding that became the foundation of just looking at, what is this person about? What is this about? So I would read as many things as I can, and now you have all these books in one book, and it's in your house all the time. Most of the time it's collecting dust because we don't understand the wisdom. The books of wisdom, Mark, Proverbs, literally the book of wisdom, which is a book.
Correct.
Which I didn't know existed in that book, because I'm looking for wisdom, and there it was, right?
The Proverbs is it. That's exactly right.
And when I came to that as an adult, I'm like, oh my God, wisdom is right here.
That's exactly right. And I think, what is it, 30 or 31 of them? Because there's one for each day.
That's
so
right.
Whatever day this is for the month, 30 days, 31, that's how many Proverbs this is. So it's almost like you could read one each day.
And that's the beauty. There was a book that was written about a guy who had difficulty as an adult keeping a job. And he spoke to an older man that was a friend of his son. And he says, listen, I don't know what it is. Maybe it's something that I'm doing or not doing. He says, listen, let me think about it. The older gentleman said to him, listen, read the book of Proverbs, one proverb a day.
Yep.
For 30, every single day.
That's
and you
right.
just do that religiously.
That's right.
Just meditate on that proverb. And that changed the man's life. So the book of Proverbs, like the Psalms, which is 150 Psalms,
that's right.
By you reading this, you begin to think. Your brain literally starts to see other, not just you, and how the universe is interconnected. This is incredible because it's tapping into your spiritual foundation, not just the mind and your what you perceive is limited because we don't know what we don't know.
That's correct.
Let me repeat that. We don't know what we don't know. and that of which we think we know is always with insufficient data that we make decisions.
Correct.
So the more we know, the more you see the larger scope of decisions, the better your decisions become. But when you're guided by a spiritual energy and force, it taps into a universal energy that is cosmic in nature, because we're divine beings.
And see, this is why, I told Lewis before we went on the air, because he says, "Oh, I feel the energy." That is one of the biggest compliments to me when somebody says that. I've had people come into my building, my school building, and say, "Oh my God, it's a good vibe in here. I feel your energy." Lewis just said it. I heard what else said just now. That is big, because like he just said, in terms of that's what you want to create, is that energy, because we're coming from energy. Yes. One of my favorite proverbs is Proverbs 11:25, and I'm going to paraphrase it, but what it says is, anyone who waters cannot help but get water on themselves. And I paraphrased it. It's kind of like you cannot help somebody else without ultimately helping yourself. You said it earlier about you actually learn more from the kids and the parents than you felt they learned from you.
Absolutely.
I feel the same way. But in many instances, when I'm talking to my guests on Saturday morning, I'll learn more from them than they do from me. And
I got to tell you the story going back to this point, and how our children are giving us spiritual messages. This happened to me a week ago. There's a child in our school, big kid, very confrontational, tremendous aggression, but little by little, he's kind of coming around, right? We're kind of like, hey, listen, it's okay. Let's meditate. Let's breathe a little bit. Let's take a walk. Little by little, it's forming a relationship of trust, because that's the bottom line. The other day, he had a major tantrum. I'm like, come on, let's go for a walk. I bring him to my office, and we're sitting down. He's now calm, and he says I said, so how are you doing? He goes, I'm okay. I said, he says to me, when I come to school, I pray when I come to school. I said, really? I said, where? He goes, in the bathroom. I said, with the other students in the bathroom? He goes, no, by myself. So I asked him, how do you pray? This is a child who's in 4th grade who you would never think had any concept of spirituality, because his behavior seems the opposite, on the other extreme. He said to me, I pray, and I tell God, thank you for the school, thank you for my friends, and thank you for Mr. Hernandez. And I said to him, wow, that's amazing. This child was teaching me that I'm the answer to his prayers. Mm-hmm. That would have never occurred to me, right? Incredible. This is
what you're saying.
Wisdom from the mouth of babes.
Yes.
And every single day that I go to school, there's a pearl that's going to be thrown at me that, to me, I see it as coming from this spiritual space.
I agree.
But I got to be attentive to hear.
And I'm going to tell you why. Again, I'm into meditation. I'm into affirmations. That's why I read from those books. Affirmations, meditation, prayer. Those 3 things. People, if they came to my home, I have to always do a disclaimer, because I have affirmations and stuff hanging all over the place. Everywhere, in every room, there, in my bathroom, on the bathroom mirror, there are affirmations. On my bedroom mirror, affirmations. In the kitchen, there are affirmations. In my office, there's affirmations. No matter where you go in there, there's affirmations all over the place. I said, I have to warn you. Do not get afraid. I'm not crazy, but these are like things I want into my spirit, as I see them. Yes. Now, this is the crazy thing about the school. I've led various schools in Patterson. And in each one, the teachers think I don't do anything, because when they send the kids down, I have a conversation with them, send them back. Well, we send them Mr. Medley, he don't do nothing. The conversation was something.
Without a doubt.
Back to what you were saying about the child, give them an opportunity to speak and talk, and I talk to them. Yes. Okay, that's all I'm going to do for the moment. Now, if they do something else and I have to suspend or call parents, then I'll do that. But when you send them down to my office, just know we're going to sit down and have a chat. And so in the teacher's mind, they're like, oh, we sending to Mr. Medley, he don't do nothing. Yeah.
They want some consequences.
Yes. And I'll tell them, no, let me tell you what you want. You want that child out of your hair for 3 days.
Correct.
And so what? At the end of the day, if you think about what is it doing for that child? They sit home and play video games all day, or either run in the street or either sleep or what have you. What is that doing for them? Mm-hmm. I said, so again, that's an aside. But in any event, you are so right. Many of our children just need to be heard.
Yes.
They just need to be affirmed. Yes. They just need somebody to acknowledge that there's something in somebody. The song that I opened the show with is called Great Work. It's by Brian Courtney Wilson. And there's a line in that song that said, "Go be great." I took that, and that's what I say every morning before the kids go upstairs after morning meeting, or if I get on the loudspeaker, is "Go be great." That's the last thing they hear out of me before they go to class. Go be great. Okay? A lot of our kids just need to be affirmed.
Yes.
Because at home, they're just constantly berated.
Yes.
They're constantly being put down. Oh, you ain't no good. You're just like your old daddy. Da, 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 da. I mean, just...
Yeah.
You little, all kinds of profane names, just so to come to school and for somebody to say, "Listen, man, we care about you. Listen, man, we love you. Listen,
Yes.
I ain't talking boyfriend, girlfriend love. I'm talking about love of you as a human being.
Yes.
We love you. We care about you. If we're fussing with you, we love you.
Yes.
Because we don't want to see you." Because I just told my kids this yesterday. I said, there are two things you will remember Mr. Medley for. That he always talked about the cemetery and he always talked about jail. I said, that's where we're trying to keep you from.
I love that. Appreciate life while you have it. Yes.
Exactly.
Don't throw something so valuable away.
So anyway, they know, everyone like, "Oh my God, here he comes again." Yes. We're going to keep you out of the cemetery and keep you out of jail. That is our objective.
That is so cool.
So the great treasure of Pico Duarte, where'd the idea come from?
It came obviously from, again, it goes back to my parents, right? El Pico Duarte is the highest mountain peak in the Dominican Republic. It's actually the highest mountain peak in the Caribbean, in the higher Antilles, right? Cuba, Puerto Rico. So it's 10,300 feet above sea level. So in 2008, I wanted to go, and I've always been called to walk up this mountain. I don't know why, but it was always like, I have to go, I got to do this, I have to get up there. And it allowed me to also, I wanted to reconnect with my family because the roots of the family are there. So in 2008, I said, you know what, I'm going to go up this mountain, and I'm going to just, in honor of my father, I'm going to go walk up this mountain and then just reflect on his life. And then that's what I did. So in 2008, I was so fired up, Mark, that year that we went up that mountain and down in 24 hours.
Wow.
My energy level was at bursting. I don't know what happened. I was so inspired, and people didn't believe it. But that, when I came up and down in those 24 hours, I realized, and I'm talking about, we're walking 10 hours a day, and I've never been able to do it with that speed. But I was hooked. I became addicted to this place, and I realized that when I came down from that mountain, I was not the same human being.
Okay.
And this is what it's about. When you go to the mountaintop, when Martin Luther King said,
right.
"I've been to the mountaintop," is because he knows Christ always went to the mountaintop to pray and to connect to the Lord, to God above. So when you go to the mountaintop as a human being, this is why all mountains are sacred. In every single country, everyone is sacred. When I went up this mountain, I felt very much connected to that land, but really to my parents, my heritage, and my history,
right,
and my roots.
Right.
And I came back down, and I said, you know what? There's nothing that we cannot do, because we have a foundation here that's strengthened by the core of who we are. And that came from within. That was my insight. And I came back, and I said, you know what? I was on fire. I was a man on fire, literally. And I came back. I said, you know what? I'm just going to continue to do what I'm doing. And if I honor my family, my mother, my father, and continue with this faith walk, things will always work out. Not because I am doing anything amazing. It's because through me, things are happening. Because it's a blessing.
Right.
And I'm just connecting to this energy. So I just, from that first, I was addicted. So I've gone up and down this mountain. I've taken my son, my daughter, my brothers, my nephews, my nieces. I've gone 10 times up this mountain. And my goal was to go 13 times. That's the goal, because I want to go up for every one of my family members.
Okay.
Some that have deceased and some that are still alive.
Right.
And for my parents. So that 11 plus 2, 13, that's the goal. To everybody in our family, including myself, gets to have an honored mountaintop experience in honor of them, that it can flow through me. And I carry a cane, a staff, which is also the reflection of what you're going to see in this story. And every time I go up, I do a circle or a
Okay.
ring around the same. And I found this staff in the middle of the mountain as I was walking up. I didn't choose it; it chose me.
All right.
And the guide said, "You got to pick that up because that's a good staff right there." And again, Christ
Right.
is the staff.
Right.
He's the foundation.
Correct.
He's what keeps us up. He's what keeps us steady. That staff has saved me from this mountain many times and from severe falls. And I realized that this is what it is. That's why Moses carried a staff.
Correct.
It goes back always constantly to these stories
Correct.
in the Bible, and this relationship with God is a universal relationship. And once we understand that as human beings, there's nothing that we cannot accomplish.
Correct.
And it's not about what the world sees as these major accomplishments that then the world sees you as like, wow, look at all you've done. No. Is that within you've lived a life that is true,
Correct.
founded on love and faith and hope, and then you share that with everybody in your circle. It reminds me of the story of Leo Tolstoy. Tolstoy wrote a beautiful story that's called The Emperor's 3 Questions. Amazing. I read that in one of our libraries when I was at the Avenue, and I read the story. I'm like, oh my God, this story is incredible. It's a young emperor who has 3 questions to ask, and he sends out this proposal to all in his kingdom. And he says, when is the best time to do each thing? Who are the best people to work with? And what is the best thing to do at all times? He sends it out. The lawyer gives him an answer. The military gives a military answer. The administrator, he's not happy with any of them. So when somebody says to him, listen, there's a wise old man at the top of the mountain who lives in this mountain, but he only sees people who are poor. So the emperor realizes, well, he's not going to see me because I'm the emperor. I'm pretty rich, so I can't go in. So he says, you know what? He has an idea. He goes up. He says, I'm going to dress as a poor person, but I'm going to bring 2 of my guards just in case because I don't know what I'm going to encounter over there. So he gets over there. He walks to the base. He leaves his guards there, and then he takes this trek for hours to get to the top of this mountain. And he gets up there, and he sees the old man tilling his fields, and it's a hot day. He just walked up about 7 hours to get to him in the first place. He's exhausted. He just sits there, and he asks the man, can you tell me when is the best time to do each thing? Who are the best people to work with? And what is the best thing to do at all times? The emperor ignores him, doesn't even acknowledge him, continues doing his work. And he can see after an hour that he's sweating profusely. This man he's older, he's struggling. And the emperor, he says, listen, can I help you? Can I just help you with the land? And can I tell you? He goes, of course. So he starts to help him. Now the old man sits down, gets his rest. And he's helping him. And then all of a sudden, the old man says, do you see? I just heard something coming through the trees. And they see a man who comes out. He's bleeding. And the young emperor sees him, drops what he's doing, runs to this man, brings him in, goes to the lake, gets water, cleans his wound, comes back again. He does this over and over until the bleeding stops after he bandages him. He's exhausted at this point. So he stands by the door and he falls asleep, the emperor. When the man that was bleeding, who's now managed, he looks at him and he says, please forgive me, to the emperor. He says, why are you asking me that? I mean, why are you saying that to me? I don't even know who you are. He goes, I know you don't know who I am, but my intent was to come here to kill you today. He says, why? He goes, when I was down there in coming up the mountain, and I got into a fight with the 2 guards that you have down there, and they gave me this wound. But when I came here, you saved my life. And for that, I'm forever indebted to you. He says, but why did you want to kill me? He says, because you made a policy that took away half of our land, and we are already poor. So in my mind, I perceived you as an evil person, and I was intent on killing you. But I was wrong, and I am forever indebted to you because you have saved my life. The emperor was so moved by that. He says, I'm going to change that policy. He says he calls up his guards. They come up, and they bring him home, and he understands, wow, I don't know what I'm doing. It's obvious. He turns to the old man. He says, listen, I'm going to go because you haven't answered my questions, so it's okay. I'm just going to leave. The old man says to him, but you already have the answers to your 3 questions. He says, how's that? He goes, when you saw me, you helped me. I was the most important person at that time. That was the most important time, and what you were doing was the most important thing to do. The minute you saw that man, you dropped everything and you went to him. He became the most important person. That was the most important thing, and that was the most important time. Wherever you are, whatever you're doing, whomever you're with, that's the answer to your 3 questions.
Wow. And see, if you noticed in that story, it never was about the emperor.
No.
He didn't come to the conclusion that it was about him.
No.
The old man helped him understand it's always about somebody else. It's always about the other person you're with, who you're giving your focus and your attention to. And it's a need. Like, who, are you fulfilling and help fulfilling a need? You heard me talk about earlier, like this whole dance we do at school between teachers and administrators and social workers and counselors and so forth and so on and so on. It really is a game that we play, and sometimes it's funny to just stand back and watch it, because it's like the kids are going to do something, we're going to yell and holler, we're going to show compassion, and like I said, they're going to pretend like they don't mind it, and then when it's time to part, that's when all the emotions come out. It's like, wow, and at the end of the day, they're going to miss the dance. Some of our kids go into withdrawal when school closes.
Yes.
For the summer, like when we shut down in another month or two, June 20th, what have you, and they're going to be off until September, some of those kids go into withdrawal. For many of our children, school is the only place of stability. That's their only stable place.
It's a safe haven.
The safe haven. That's exactly right. And
Yes.
so with the great treasure of Duarte, because I know there's a message in here, because we want people to get the book. I'm not going to read it to you. We're not going to read it to you because it's short. It's a children's book. But what is the upshot? I mean, maybe we won't give that either.
Well, let me tell you, this is the beauty of this is that I've always been seeking spirituality and wisdom from a very young age. I don't know why, but somehow that's been the calling, right? But when I started going to El Pico Duarte, to this mountaintop, one year my wife said, "Why don't you go to another mountain this year and see, a different experience?" I said, you're right. I've always wanted to go to Machu Picchu and do the Inca Trail.
Machu Picchu,
right?
that's right.
So, and we that's what we did. I went with her brother, and we went, and we got to 16,000 feet above sea level, walking up 16,000 feet. We saw vertical rainbows. And I was like, what is that? Nature is freaky up there. It is just
I'm
crazy.
sure.
It was amazing. But I prepped myself spiritually by reading books by Robert Redfield, The Celestine Vision,
That's
The
right.
Celestine
That's right.
Prophecy.
Celestine Prophecy, that's right.
And let me tell you, those books just completely, I was like, you know what? I'm opening my heart to whatever the Lord has for me, and I'm going to just allow nature to take over and do its thing. I cannot tell you how crazy this is. When I got up there, that prior morning, I didn't sleep, right? We had been trekking all day, the prior day, and that morning we went to sleep. We got to see the Milky Way, literally, clearly. I was like, I can see the Milky Way at that height. I was just flabbergasted. I was so full of energy. I didn't sleep that night. The next morning, I said, you know what? I'm going to wake up, I'm going to walk, and I'm going to really, really get into this walk. And we were going vertical. You couldn't breathe. I would take 10, 20 steps. I had everybody. There was like 30 people on this journey. When I got up there to the mountaintop, I was the first one up there. I was going crazy with this energy. I get up there, Mark, the old man was sitting there.
Wow.
Let me repeat that. Wow. There was an old man sitting at the top of the mountain, at the base of this pyramid of rocks, and I look around and nobody thought it was strange. Nobody thought that was like an aberration from the norm. I'm like, does anybody see this man? Like, this is the wise old man at the top of the mountain. Right. So I go up to the guy, I give him some protein bars, I start speaking to him in Spanish, he spoke to me in Quechua, which is more of a traditional. And we're just going back and forth. He played the flute for me. We had an interaction. We connected. And I sat up there to meditate on this pyramid of rocks. And we had taken 2 pebbles to bring as a homage to the mountain. And I sat there to meditate. And I had the most amazing meditation. It was transcendental.
Right.
It was a moment of transcendence. And I have to share this with you because it's so powerful that it's unbelievable. But when I sat there and all I did was I ummed because I had read that the universe makes the sound of
That is correct. That
so I'm
is
like,
correct.
you know what? I'm up here. I'm like, let me really cherish this moment. So I sat up there to and as I ummed, I disconnected. I didn't know that I only knew that I had left because I came back. Let me say that again. I left, but I didn't know it. When I came back, I realized that I had gone someplace else. In the midst of that, I got this amazing vision of my heart started to pound like 1,000 miles a minute. The energy was like within, it was like having like this massive headache, like an accordion. And that's what was happening within. Like my heart was like literally my whole body was throbbing. And my heart was pacing like I was running at 1,000 miles an hour. And in the midst of that, I saw a figure of a stick figure running across the horizon at the same pace of my heartbeat. And then it transformed into a bird flapping its wings at the same pace of my heartbeat. And then it stopped mid-air, stopped, went vertical, and it became a cross. And at that moment, it's like I came back to myself like an implosion, and I was just flabbergasted. I was filled with this sorrow and pain, like in my heart. And I in my mind, I was transported to 2,000 years ago at the point of the resurrection and Calvary. And I was the guy who was accusing Christ and saying, I was Pontius Pilate. I was all the bad people that we see. I was them. I was among the community attacking. And I felt this sense of deep pain and suffering and remorse. And at the same time, joy. Because in that revelation, I can then see who I really am in my true nature. And it was such a revelation, transcendental. I was crying like a child. But when I opened my eyes, everything around me was bright. It was incredible. It was an experience that really was the highest spiritual experience I have ever had has been at that mountaintop. Earth is our temple. We are our temples, and God abides here. He abides there. He abides everywhere. He abided yesterday, today, and tomorrow. It's an infinite energy. And somewhere along those lines, I know that there's another time-space continuum because I have experienced something like that. And I don't meditate. I'm too hyper. I don't have the ability to do that. I go meditate. I go running so I can meditate. The running slows me down because I'm so hyper. I got to move. And then in the meditation, I'm praying. So I don't meditate. And that experience itself was a gift. It was a gift from nature but I was open to it. This is what this inspired this book about. What I have to write something for someone, the next generation. Go find your mountain. Go find, and I say in this case, gender speaking, it's the old man at the top of the mountain.
Right.
Because it's connected to my father. So that became the old man at the top of the mountain. But that man, that figure, that presence there, I have no idea who that person was. I don't know what they were doing there. It was freezing up there. Why would somebody just be sitting there? It's not logical. It's not for me. It's to see the miracle of that moment. And when I left that space, my energy level was so high. I was running down this mountain. I couldn't feel the ground. I could not feel all the rocks beneath me. I felt like I was floating. That experience has confirmed for me that we are divine beings.
Yes.
We are spiritual beings.
Correct.
And we are being called to share this with others because it's not something that you keep for yourself. It is a precious treasure. And it goes back to this. It's the treasure. Our families are treasure. Our spiritual lives are our treasure. We share those treasures and they come back to us. We multiply. We have been given freely what we paid nothing for.
Correct.
We are afraid to lose what is not ours. It is illogical. We are insane. What are we doing? It makes no sense. When you realize that your life is something that is a gift for you to share, then it multiplies the gift.
Correct.
And it's a basic human understanding. But we are afraid. Somewhere along the line, we think we're going to get hurt.
Correct.
Or we don't trust. There's no need. If you're on a spiritual path and you have been called to live a spiritual life, that was not your choice. It is God who creates the covenant with you, like he did with Abraham and with Moses. He signs the contract. We're asleep when God comes and passes over us. Christ is our Passover.
Correct.
And Christ comes and says, listen, I'm giving you something so amazing, you're not going to understand it. But I'm going to send you the Holy Spirit so he can break it down for you.
Correct. That's absolutely right. And because again, the conversation I was having yesterday morning, there's this saying that we are spiritual beings having a human experience.
Yes.
In other words, our spirit is going to go on. You know how I close out the show every Saturday morning. Our spirits are going to go on. Now, the physical piece of us, that's going to decay and die and so forth. But the us of us, the you of you, the me of me, that's going to live on.
Yes.
And that's exactly what Lewis is talking about. And so for those of you, because you entered a different realm, you went into a different realm. But, we know the lingo. For those of us who are into the spirit or in the spiritual and so forth and so on, we know the lingo. So he entered a different realm. And those realms are out there, but you have to seek it. You seek it, and you'll find it.
Without a doubt. That which you seek, you will find.
Yes.
If you hear a knock, open the door. It's someone who's coming in to give you a word. This book, and I realized that the insight that I had was like, I have to begin with children. Because there's a child within each adult.
Correct.
That is crying to be seen, to be acknowledged, to be loved, to be hugged. We want to go back to that moment in our lives where all of our needs were basically met.
Correct.
Which is basically within the womb of our mothers, right? So that transition from dependence to independence, we need to have that. God has placed something. Love is in our hearts.
Correct.
Because we were given love. We are beings that are formed in love.
Correct.
Right? That's the essence of our life. So when we live our life, understanding that is the foundation of who we are, that breath spirit, you start with a breath, you end with a breath. We have no control of that.
Correct.
So to be humble and understand this comes from a power and a place that is far bigger than me, then we can understand our generations, our history, our heritage. We acknowledge it, we honor it, and then we make it better for the next generation. Not just in material wealth and possessions and college education, which is very, very important. Yes, we need a socioeconomic structure, but we also need the faith foundation that lives on infinitely. That doesn't die. We don't lose that if it's a bad economy. We don't lose it. Or the opposite. Through our suffering, we give it purpose. That's what makes us amazing in terms of us understanding who we are as human beings. And when you see someone who is suffering, go help them out.
Correct.
And that strengthens your faith.
Correct.
And gives them courage, gives them hope. And say, hey, man, thank you for giving me my dignity back as a human being. This is what life is about.
Correct.
Within our own family members, our immediate family, there are many people who are in pain and suffering. We don't know it.
Correct.
Because we never relate that kind of intimacy. And yet we spend a lot of time physically with our inner circle and family, but we don't really say, listen, I'm really hurting at this point. What can we do? Because you can't be a prophet in your land.
Correct. That's right. Like, isn't that the carpenter's son? Oh, he wasn't nothing. The people that should have been wasn't.
It's a universal concept. But if you go to another land, they're like, who is this guy?
That's
this guy's
right.
a prophet.
That's right.
We've been waiting for the Messiah all this time, man. Where have you been? And you see
That's exactly right.
It's amazing. So to some degree, you got to go speak to those who've never heard the word.
Correct.
And then when you say it, it's so refreshing. But if I hear it all the time, I'm like, you say the same thing over and over again.
Right. That's what my boys are in the school.
This is redundant.
But in any event, because we come to the end. I tell you, it goes quick.
Oh my
goodness. We're already like at 8:50. I'm going to have you back on. Matter of fact, another idea just popped into my head. I'll talk to you about it off air. And I'll see if I have a feeling you will be game for it, but I'll ask you when we're off air. But talk about the Spirit. The Spirit just spoke to me while I was listening to you. So I'll tell you about it when we get off air.
Okay.
But the book is The Great Treasure of Pico Duarte. The author is Luis Hernandez. It's illustrated by Daisy Hernandez. So even the fact that you picked one of the kids to illustrate the book, that says a lot.
Yes.
That you picked one of her students to illustrate the book. That says, first off, it says you have faith in the child. I can't imagine for Daisy what that must feel like to have her name on a book and know she drew the pictures in here.
Let me tell you, this young lady, when I was in central office and I saw one of her paintings, and she was a freshman at Rosa Parks High School, and I looked at this painting and I said, wow, this is a beautiful painting. I love art. And I saw this painting that she did of two girls in a garden, just vibrant, amazing colors. And when I asked her, who did that? And they said, one of our students. I said, wait a minute, one of our students, like, in our school system? Who? Oh, she's a freshman over at Rosa Parks. I'm like, here's my number. Tell her father to call me. And I got to know the family intimately over the years. Kind of guided her. She went on to Tufts University, got her degree in art. Phenomenal.
Wow.
And this idea, I was like, you know what? I want to do an illustrated book.
Right.
So I called. I said, Daisy, what do you think of this day? She goes, yeah, that sounds good. And we just started talking about these stories. I'm like, I want to be able to bring this up. She goes, let's see what we could do. So I sent her the short story, and then she tweaked it. I tweaked it. Our publisher tweaked it. This young lady who's phenomenal also. So this is how this came about. So as the story was unfolding and we were editing it, she would then create the visual image. I'm like, no, the wise man has to look like this, and the rainbow has to be in there. And through that conversation, we came up with all of this. Very magical, very magical. Let me tell you, I have to. This is something in the book that I think really wants. It's phenomenal. The what you were saying before. What's the takeaway here? Right? It's about companionship. It's about friendship. It's about never giving up. It's about being of service to others, helping the people that you walk with. When you read the characters that are here, they seem who can put a series of these people together? This is the beauty when people have kind of like a same mission.
Right.
That you can walk together when there's a common denominator. So this is what I want people to take away. This is one where they meet the wise old man, and they're flabbergasted because all of their wishes come true, right? And they're like, "Wow, this is it. This is what we were looking like us. We are looking
exactly.
We want all of our wishes to come true." So the next day, after their journey to these sacred places, where few of us have been, a place that has to be believed to be seen, joy glowed on all their faces.
There you go. Now, see, if we were in a spoken word, you all know we don't clap for spoken word. We snap our fingers. So he just read from the book. That's exactly from the book. And it is beautifully, I mean, this is, like I said earlier, this is radio, not television. So you can't see it. I can because I have a copy of the book, but it is beautifully illustrated. Beautiful. It is colorful. It is vibrant. The graphics match the words. Because, see, that's one thing that used to, like, really annoy me when, Louis, when music videos first came out. What would annoy me to the highest would be when the video had absolutely nothing that the lyrics were saying. Like, what does what's going on in that video have to do with the lyrics? Good morning, caller. You're on the air. Do you have a question for Louis?
This is Mr. Powder. I don't have a question. I'm sorry. I'm up in Pennsylvania for the weekend.
All right. Well, I'll tell you what we're doing, JP, is I have a guest live in the studio. And if those who are listening that's hearing the interview, if they have a question, then they have the opportunity to do that. But this is not conversation time.
I'll talk to you before the show closes, okay?
All right. Enjoy your time in Pennsylvania.
Yeah, man.
All right.
Memorial Day weekend, and God bless us all, and God bless you, Lloyd, for letting us wake up every day.
I know that's right. That's all right, JP.
A great day of my life.
You do the same. Take care.
Man, Mark. Love you, buddy.
Love you too, man. All right, the listening audience, you know JP is a faithful listener. He's one of the faithful brethren and sisters. So for those of you who are faithful listeners, you know JP is one. Matter of fact, when Wardell called in earlier, he's one as well. One of the things you said earlier, and before, because the last 5 minutes, I shut off my mic and you get to promote. But one of the things you said earlier is with reading and with books. This is another way we get an opportunity to leave a legacy, because you'll be dead and gone. I'll be dead and gone. This book is still going to be floating around.
Yes.
It's going to be in somebody's attic, somebody's trunk, somebody's basement, somebody's car. It's going to be somewhere,
Yes.
still, even though we're gone. This is still going to be there. And that's the beautiful thing about being an author or having a physical product, a book or something that you've written. Because you're right, just like the Bible, 2,000 plus years old, this book will be around timeless forever.
Yes.
It'll be somewhere. We don't know where it's going to be, but it's going to be somewhere.
It's going to inspire someone.
Right.
Somewhere, sometime.
Exactly. So, but like I said, what I do is the last few minutes, I shut the mic off. You get to promote. You can book signings, where the book is on the websites, shout out your family. You can do anything with the exception of, say, a dollar amount. That's the only thing you cannot do is say a price, cost, dollar amount. But anything short of that, and profanity, but anything short of that, I'm going to shut the mic off and you get a chance to promote how folks can get it, how they can get in touch with you, so forth and so on.
Well, basically, you can go on Amazon and pick up the book. It's there. It's also in the Barnes & Nobles in Clifton. They have some copies as well, so you can physically go there and pick some up. And we've been doing some presentations. Yesterday, as a matter of fact, I went to New York. One of my nieces took me there, and I did some readings to some kids in grammar school in 3rd and 5th grade. It was wonderful. And they get they got a free copy of the book signed. They were completely taken back by that because there were a lot of other readers, but nobody gave them a gift as a book, and they were just amazed. And a lot of Dominican American students are there and kids from everywhere. So these are the places that it's really to be able, like you just said, the purpose of the book, honestly, and I say this with all humbleness, the intention was not to make money. It was for me to leave a legacy. And that's really what I want to really bring forth. This is not a profit entrepreneurial choice. This is something that I want to leave a legacy. This is why I have the photo of my mother and my father are there, and the dedication pages to them, obviously to my wife and to my children. But it's really for us to remember that they are the legacy. I am not the legacy. They're the legacy. I'm just an extension of this legacy and this breath moving forward. And I did it really for my children because they're going to be the next, genetically speaking, the next generation. But because we're such a large family, I really did it for our extended family as well. Remember to remember who you are. And if you know who you are and where you've come from, you will never be lost. And this is the beauty of the message that God has given us through our parents. I won the parent lottery. This is how I see it. And so that lottery is giving me riches, but they are the treasure. And this is why the book of, the great treasure is really our family. It's the foundation and the core of our existence. And that love and that faith is what it's about. My father always left this message, and to me, this is really why I want to leave this. It's about unity and love in the family. That's power. That's what gives us strength. It's not individualism. It's a collective. It's a community. And this is why I'm going to read what Lewis says. What is Lewis wishing for when he sees the wise old man? And I have to read this to you because it is really an amazing thing. This is the core of my father's message. He says to him, the wise old man, who's so nice and so grand, asks Louis, what's your wish? And Louis replies with a hopeful stance and a heart full of steam, to live my dream. I seek opportunity for love and unity in our community. That is the message that I received from my father. And this is what the wise guy told me and tells us. The wise guy gave signs and wonders to call back to the right way all those who had gone astray. Happy are those who listen to him and follow his ways. With a happy soul, I can also say, I know who I am today. Any one of us who understands who they are today is connected to their core. You will never be lost. And this love and unity and faith is at the core of our humanity. And this is what's going to allow us to not only survive, but really thrive now and for generations to come. like you said, this book and this legacy, I don't know who's going to be impacted. I don't know who's going to see it, but someone will. Some child, like I was inspired by the story of Roberto Clemente when I was in 4th grade. And I said, man, I want to be like that guy. Well, this is what it's about. This is what education is about. This is what parenting is about. This is what our humanity is about. This is what family is about. Be better. Be your best. Go and be great. And this is the message.
Well, I tell you what, I thank Louis so much for rising to join me. What I'm going to do is, based on what he was saying, you all know I have 2 CDs that was released early, like 2011, 2013, but one of the songs on there is titled Respect Your Father. As a matter of fact, it's one of my favorite ones, so I'm going to close out with that playing as we get ready to go out. This is one of my originals. It's on, it's on the Wrinkle Rag CD, because there's 2 CDs. There's Go Up on the Third Limb, and there's the Wrinkle Rag. They're both on Apple Music. And like Louis said, I didn't put that out as moneymakers. Exactly what you just said there.
Yes.
Did not put it out as a moneymaker, but it will always be in existence. That's my music.
Yes.
There's something else you said that attracted my attention. I loved it. You hit the parent lottery. I hit the parent lottery too. And so I resonated and knew exactly what you meant.
That's awesome.
There's unfortunately and sadly too many of us who can't say that. But for those of us who can, what a blessing it is. And I'd never heard it coined that way. I love it. Hit the parent lottery. I hit the parent lottery as well. Both my mom and dad are gone now. May they continue to sleep and rest in peace. But yes, that hit me. This, as the kids can say, THIS exclamation point. This. I hit the parent lottery. But man, I guess I got an ideal spirit. I go with what the Spirit tells me. And I'm going to add, when we go outside, I'm going to ask you when we go out into the lobby. And then in terms of like the legacies and everything, yes, we have the opportunity to do that. The book is going to be here when we're gone. Kemper was right. You and I needed to meet. We did.
It was inevitable.
Kemper was right. I've had a blast this morning because so much of what you said aligns with my beliefs and thought patterns and how I operate and everything.
Mark, deep attracts deep.
Yes. That's exactly right. Deep attracts deep is right. So I'll have you back, and we got to hang out sometime and just talk, you know.
Absolutely.
And so, but again, it's Luis Hernandez. The book is The Great Treasure of Pico Duarte. If you go to Amazon, if you put in, it's Luis, Luis, Hernandez, Hernandez. Do you have a website or anything?
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I just want to make sure, however they need to get it. But if you go to Amazon, if you go to Barnes & Noble, the book is there. I'm going to go ahead and let Respect Your Father play out while we close out. And then, for the next half hour or so, I'll put back on the Good News and Song, which is the gospel music.